What's up, you beautiful collectors and Transformer fans? It's the one and only Optibotimus coming with another video review. And on today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at the Walgreens exclusive Transformers Earthrise Deluxe Class Bluestreak. As I said, it is a Walgreens exclusive, at least here in North America, which most of you know how I feel about those types of exclusives when they take a fairly main character and stick him in a store that just doesn't seem like it belongs. It's kind of annoying. They did it with Ratchet in Walgreens, I think it was, and that was just not fun. But for the package, you wouldn't really be able to tell. There's nothing on here that marks it as such. You got the Transformers text, generation logo, got that open window that fully showcases the figure, and he looks really nice. The side here has gorgeous art of him. Coming around to the side, you got that very classic looking Earthrise image with the Ark crashing down the Earth. You got Unicron floating around, all that fun stuff coming around to the back of the package. You can see that he transforms in 15 steps, and we have him now in his Earth-based vehicle mode, which is a little bit more what we're used to seeing for him, as well as obviously his robot mode. But for the packaging on this guy, that's about it. So, without further ado, let's get him out here and see how cool he actually is. Alright guys, so here we have Bluestreak opened up out of his packaging and obviously in his updated vehicle mode. Which now, because this is the Earthrise line, has him in a more Earth-based style car. And it definitely has more of that classic look like a lot of original G1 fans kind of remember. Obviously, I have his weapons plugged in here. Going to remove those just so that you can kind of see what's going on. But really very nice. Obviously, the colors are reminiscent of how he looked with the gray, the black. You got a clearish window, which is kind of ugly in the fact that you got this red piece, which I'll touch on that here in a bit. But it's right there. I wish that was a little bit more smoky looking to kind of hide that. That's definitely an eyesore, I think. Gorgeous Autobot logo there. I like how they got this blue bit here for his headlights themselves. Nice silver paint for the rims. Coming around to the back of the figure. I like how they painted the taillights on them, which is something that they haven't done a lot of. So it is nice to see that. That does look really cool. Rolls, obviously. He does come with these. Now, I'm not a big fan of the coloring per se on this. I wish it was a little bit darker or a little bit more, just less drab gray. That's the only thing I would really complain about on these. One thing that is interesting, though, is they don't like going down all the way. Now, I remember seeing somewhere that you could probably shave that down and get it to be flush, but as you can kind of see, it sticks up a little bit, so I wish it was a little bit more flush. Plus, it's pointing upward. That's definitely kind of weird. His gun, though, looks pretty nice. Nothing really spectacular with that. Now, for the comparison, I want to say that I don't honestly remember if this was... I know I did some weapon swapping, but I don't remember if this silver one was Prowl's. It might be his, just in general, but obviously you have that. So if you do have that previous version, you can use these with him, but they stick up a lot higher. So you can do some weapons swapping, but you can see that his are much larger than the new Earthrise one. So that's interesting of note. And then the gun here, very similar in terms of the overall look and style. They're kind of replicating the G1 look, but this is what you have. And both of them are still really good-looking cars. You could probably get away with calling this a really souped-up looking Earth one, but color-wise is basically the same. This one looks... the Siege one is a little bit thicker, it seems, but overall still really nice look. I like the sleekness of this. That looks really cool. So, really for me, there's not a huge, this one is far superior to this one, or vice versa. Both of them are really nice, and I dig, get these out of the way, I dig the overall look on each of these. So this is definitely a kind of thing where you could have both in a collection. If you wanted to focus primarily on the Cybertronian look for them, you could have a display for that. If you wanted to do a more after they arrived on Earth look, you could go with this guy. So I think it works nicely. Now for his transformation, it is also still very similar to this, guys, but you do have to be careful with some bits on this. First, we're going to come around to the doors. We're going to pull these away just like so, and then take these arms, fold these forward, and then you can swivel these out to the side. I like taking this piece here and pulling this up. Now makes it a little bit easier to move things around, but this is where some people have problems. This top section has broken off on a lot of people from what I'm seeing because they're pushing up. My understanding is this piece right here is what's breaking on it because they're forcing things up. I don't know necessarily why that is. You don't really need to do that all that much, but don't put pressure on there. Just be careful. Kind of pull this away, and then you can hinge these out. Come down here, you can rotate right there. At this point, I like rotating the head. I don't know if the instructions actually tell you to have the head rotated, but I like doing it just so that you don't have that ugly head right there. Kind of split these legs just like so. Come around to the inside. You got these little pieces. These rotate down to kind of hide this big giant hole, but it's still there. I mean, that's kind of ugly for sure. And then take this piece right here. You're going to push this down like that, and then you're going to do some accordioning. Is that a word? Here, make sure these are kind of out of the way. Bring this. Yeah, this part does get. There we go. Bring that down. And kind of keep that as straight as possible. Again, don't really put much pressure on this. Kind of push from the top section. And then this little piece right here will come down and will sort of tab into place. It kind of helps if you kind of push right here. These arm bits here, then on the inside here are little tabs that slot in to hole sections on the underside here of the shoulder joint. So you got that little piece. Just bring that down. That kind of locks it into place. You can rotate that around. Position that, futz with that, kind of angle these back a little bit, set him up nicely, and then you're going to take these and bring, now again, if you really wanted to, you could still use these, but again, I think that they sit up a little bit too high on him. Plus, in this mode, you can kind of see that his chest kind of angles down a little bit. That doesn't bother me really all that much, but what is nice is because the angle of these, that I mean, if you remember, I was talking about how they angle up in the vehicle mode. Here in robot mode, though, they're now pretty much flush, which is really nice. But when you're done, there you have Bluestreak in his robot mode. And this guy really did turn out great. Now, there are a couple aspects that I think could have been done better, but I understand the reason behind doing them the way that they did. Starting off first with those bad bits, it would definitely be his legs. Really, really hollow. If you didn't have this piece that slid down, I don't know. I mean, it's a big, giant, empty cavity. Now, as I said, I understand why they did it, because it folds up, and that empty area is filled in with his thigh section for the vehicle mode. I don't know. I'm not overly impressed with that. That's probably the worst. So both of those legs are kind of bad. Also, this back section, I really don't understand why they couldn't have done this red piece in a completely different color, maybe a dark gray or something. If you're going to leave the windshield like that, I don't know why they needed to make that red to go along with the rest of them, because literally that serves no purpose to be red like that. So I feel they could have done that a little bit differently. But all in all, though, everything else on this guy is terrific. I really, really am happy with him. So let's get him standing here, and let's bring in the Siege one for comparison. Now, you can see that the transformation is fairly similar. He also had a kind of hollow section here in the legs, so that was, always kind of a bad thing. But these guys both look really good together, and there's a good difference between them that, like I said, you can really create almost two displays, I think. If you did want to switch these weapons, again, you could. They will stick out a little bit higher. The peg hole's not as deep on the new Earthrise one as a Siege one. But you could do that, but now you can see that based on the way that his torso is, the guns are now pointing down. But those look pretty good, I suppose. Wonder if you use these, and then that would probably look... No, that looks a little bit more dumb. But, I mean, you could swap that out. I have seen some people swapping the heads. Honestly, I don't know. I kind of like the crest on the Siege one a little bit better. You can see that it kind of flares out from the actual head itself, whereas this one doesn't flare out nearly as much. I don't know. I mean, I do like the crest a little bit more on this guy. I do think that looks cooler. You could probably swap the heads. They're probably just ball joints. Yeah, you could probably do that if you wanted. And I can't imagine it affecting too much in terms of the transformation. But, it's personal preference. I do like the Autobot logo, the way that it is on here, a lot better than the smaller one that the Siege one had. The darker color... like, for example, here in the shoulder areas does look nice. But for the most part, it's Bluestreak. I think that the legs here look a little bit better because that's more of that smoky color that I wish that they would have used, like, for that. They did use that on his windshield and everything, so I think that looks a little bit better. Especially then when you get here, because it's just a completely light blue plastic. There, so you see through it entirely. So that is that's a downgrade, I think. Both are great, and I think will display very nicely in either of your displays. But honestly, for me, I do lean towards this one a little bit more. It's not a huge runaway by any stretch of the imagination. There are aspects that are on both that I think are really very nice, and there's aspects that I think could have been better. But the overall just look is this for me. Just again, because I am such a G1 fan, and I've said this a million times, that I tend to lean more towards that look and aesthetic. That's just a personal preference for me. It's not that one opinion is right or one opinion is wrong. If you like this a little bit more because that's different than what we usually get, great. They're your toys. Do what you want with them. But this is just my opinion. Articulation-wise, the head can rotate. It's very stiff on that ball joint. Also can look up and down a bit. You do have the shoulders that move forward and back. The wings do kind of get in the way. You can't really push them all the way back. Because there's a lot of robot junk right there. So it kind of stops right there. So you can't really get a full 360 without bending the arms out. But I guess it's possible. Forward and back, the little tab section here does like detaching. Doesn't really stay tabbed in all that securely, but it's not too terrible. So you do have that. You have the rotation at the upper part of the elbow. You got a little bit more than 90 degrees bending at the elbow itself. The wrists do rotate. That's nice. Waist also swivels forward and back on some hinges and such. Here at the hips, you can rotate at the upper part of the thigh. Bends here at the knee. The ankles, you can move these kind of forward and back, and then they also do have ankle tilt. Now, I do got to give a shout out to my channel member FC, who did mention that there are some differences, it appears, in the knees between him and specifically Smokescreen. I'll show that off more when I take a look at that Smokescreen figure, which will be coming up after this one, more than likely. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that there does appear to be a slight mold change between the two. I don't necessarily know why, but we'll take a look closer at that in due time. But he's a fun looking figure. I'm really happy with him. I was happy with the Siege stuff, and I know some people get kind of cranky because they give us the same characters quite often, and obviously we got him. We're going to be getting a Smokescreen, Prowl, all that kind of stuff. The Datsun brothers are basically the Autobot versions of the Seekers, so it just stands to reason we're going to be getting a bunch of these. But I love the way that he looks. I think that he turned out great, super fun. I've always liked the character. Yeah, he talks a lot, so it kind of reminds me of me. So transformation back. Going to take this gun off. You can leave these on if you want to. It doesn't affect anything, but I'm going to take them off just so that it's a little bit easier to see everything. Come around here. All of this stuff, basically leave it alone for right now. You want to separate his torso here. Well, first pull these bits away. Make sure that you do that because then it won't separate. And fold the head out. When you hinge this, just hinge this all the way back like so. Again, don't put any pressure on this. Just leave it alone. Take this, tuck that up right there. You can rotate his head. Like I said, I like doing that just to kind of hide it. Rotate him at the waist. Bring the two legs to, take that, fold that up. Bring the two leg sections together. And then you accordion this up and into place like that. So the roof and the back section here line up. And then bring this up. Kind of have to force that up a little bit. And then take these and tab those down. Come around here to these arms. Rotate these around so that the tires are facing the proper way. And then you got a little tab here. This is almost impossible for me to get lined up. But you got a little tab. And you have a little slot section here. But getting it to line up is really hard to do. And it's hard to get kind of any kind of clearance because you got this. But as long as it's there, it's fine. And then you can tab the door in on that side and everything stays up there fine. So I don't think you really need to tab that in. But, I mean, if you can get it, great. If not, no big deal. But when you're done, there you have Bluestreak back in his vehicle mode. Overall, if you have that Siege one, you know how to transform the guy. It is roughly the same. There are some aspects that you do want to be careful with. So just go slowly. Don't force things. But it is a fairly simple transformation. I don't hate it, but it is a very familiar one, especially, like I said, if you have that dude. Vehicle mode-wise, I think looks great. Does a good job of homaging how he looked in the original animation. Whether or not you like it is a personal preference sort of thing. In terms of the Fair Lady, this was more the regular, I don't want to say like retail look for it, but this is what you could basically get if you wanted that Nissan Fair Lady kind of off the lot. Now, the prowl and the smokescreen look was a little bit more modified. So this is a closer, more real-world representation of that car. And I like it. I mean, it's a personal preference kind of thing. I do really like the sleek look of this guy. I just keep bringing him in there. But again, it's a figure that both looks can work in displays. And the robot mode, I think, looks wonderful. I don't like what they did with the legs. I feel like that hollow nature is a little bit too commonplace with a lot of Transformers. I wish they could figure out something differently so that it doesn't look as hollow, I guess. And I also don't really like what they did here with the windows. I mean, either change the color of that to like a gray color to kind of blend in a little bit more, or change the color of the windows so that you don't see it. But there's literally no reason why that should be red. Color that something else, because that just, you don't see it really in robot mode, and the only time you do see it is vehicle mode. And in vehicle mode, that sticks out and looks ugly. So it is what it is. Ultimately, I still recommend him. I think he's great. You're not wrong in either version of Bluestreak. Ultimately, this is the one that I'm going to have in my display, but both are still really very good figures. So, all that being said, as I said at the beginning of this video, unfortunately right now, at least here in North America, this is a Walgreens exclusive. Why? I have no idea. Walgreens paid a lot of money for the exclusive rights. That's basically the long and short of it. And it sucks because it's a fairly big named character that will be harder to get for collectors. So he is out now, and if you're looking for him, all I can really say is good luck and happy hunting. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. Remember, if you like this video, I would really appreciate it if you would do one very simple thing for me. And that's simply just to hit that thumbs up button. Every time you do, Santa Claus will bring you an extra present at Christmas time. Or maybe he won't. I don't know. But it really does go a long way towards helping me out, and I would really very much appreciate it. Also, I gotta send a huge shout out to all my patrons and channel members. Through their continued support, now more than ever, help to make reviews like this possible. And if you'd like information on how you can help support my channel like these guys right here, feel free to check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/Optibotimus. Or if you want to keep it really simple like these guys, and keep all of your perks right here on YouTube, all you have to do is click on that little join button right down there. And finally, remember that the real trouble with the world is that too many people grow up. Thank you for watching and taking the time to be a kid.